So we are going to go ahead and get started on making the covers out of medium weight chipboard, and we're going to also go ahead and wrap the covers. There are many tutorials out there, not just from those of us on the design team from Country Craft Creations and from Tamara herself on Country Craft Creations, or on her YouTube channel, which is Tammy Merrill. They're all over YouTube, but I will go ahead, just because this is a little bit involved, I'll go ahead and walk you through how to make this cover, okay? The folio cover. So what you're going to need is some medium weight chipboard. I use, it's going to be hard to tell, but I don't know if you can see that thickness right there. It's probably, I would say that's probably like 1/8 of an inch. But what that, you know, in pound wise, see, it's a little stiff. It's much heavier than a cereal box, the weight of a cereal box. So it's a nice heavy weight. I like to use this on all my covers, just so, you know, it doesn't get any wrinkly. So you see, there's some give to it, but it's a good quality cardstock. And what you're going to need, I think I used 3 12 by 12 sheets of the heavyweight cardstock. I think I did. It might have been 2.5. So what you're going to need is, there's 7 pieces. I know I can't even get them all in the frame. It's going to be kind of hard to see. So 1 through 7, and we'll just start at the beginning. So you're going to need actually 2 pieces that are cut down to 5 by 9. So there's 5 by 9. That is, let me show you, that is, starting from the left-hand side of the book, that is this flap right here. So that's 5 by 9. Then you're going to want you're going to want 2 of those 5 by 9s, 2 of the 1 by 9, which are these little skinny spines right here. So you need 2 of those. Then you're going to need 2 pieces that are cut to 7.5 by 9, and that is this piece right here on the front and this piece on the back. Okay, so then you're going to also want one piece that's cut at 2 by 9. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through. So as I said, you need 7 pieces of chipboard for this cover. Okay, so you can see, yeah, this is very long. This is, let me see, this is 22, 23, 24, this is about 30 some inches long when you lay it out, you know, chipboard to chipboard. So we're going to start on the leftmost side. Well, actually, before we put down the chipboard, go ahead and cut yourself some of your base color cardstock, whether you're using white like I did, or black, or craft, or whatever color you use. I do recommend, and I can't say this enough, and I know all the other designers say it also, Tamara sells a cardstock. It's called Artisan Cardstock. It has like a little bit of a linen finish. I just about burst into tears when I realized I was out. I have some black, but I don't have enough to do a whole project. So I am just using everyday, I call it poor man's cardstock. Yeah, I mean, it works perfectly. I didn't get any cracking or anything like that, although I suspect I might get a little crack today, and I'll show you why. But anyway, so go ahead, and since your book is 9 inches tall, right? Hence the reason why we're cutting these at 7.5 by 9. Go ahead and give yourself, I like to give myself at least 1 inch on either end of the chipboard, at the top and at the bottom, just to be able to wrap it. Now, I did take a class with Ginger from my sister Scrapper, and she said, you don't need any more than 1/2 of an inch. Well, you don't need any more than 1/2 of an inch if you're not a scaredy cat like I am. I don't know what that extra 1/2 inch gets me, but it makes me feel more comfortable. But anyway, so go ahead and cut down. You're going to need 3 pieces of 12 by 12, and in my case, of the white cardstock. So what you want to do is cut that down to 11 inches by 12 inches. If you want to have an inch on each side. And then what you can do, and this is for something else, then you're going to lay your cardstock down. Give yourself a 1/4 of an inch overhang. Now I use score tape to keep it really easy, but you can go ahead and use wet glue. I'm just a super impatient person. So I used a piece of 1/4 inch cardstock, score tape, and I just overlapped those 2 pages. Okay. And then take your third piece, again, that you cut down by 11 by 9, and attach that third piece on. That gives you one continuous piece of cardstock. I hope that makes sense to you. So then you end up with this cardstock like this. If you can see there's my left side, and it's all one big piece of cardstock. Okay? So, oh, that's actually a very good shot. You can see right here, you can see the seam where I connected the 2 pieces of cardstock. Now, it won't, you won't even see that because you're going to cover that with pattern paper, so you don't even have to worry about that. Okay, so again, here we are. So, assuming that you have all your chipboard cut down, again, you need 2 pieces that are 5 by 9, 2 pieces that are 1 by 9, 2 pieces that are 7.5 by 9, and you need 1 for the spine piece, the big spine, which is 2 inches by 9 inches. All right. So again, something that Ginger from my sister Scrapper taught me in the class not too long ago. When you have multiple pieces of cardstock like this, do yourself a favor, mark them, put a number on them in number order of how, it goes, how you put the book together. So for instance, take 1 piece of your 5 by 9 and mark it number 1, like I did. See that? Number 2, right next to it, is the 1 by 9 spine. Ignore this score tape here. Number 3 is the 7.5 by 9. Number 4 is a 2 by 9. This is your main spine. Number 5 is a 7.5 by 9. Number 6 is a 1 by 9. I hope you can see there's a little bit of glare. And number 7 over here is the second 5 by 9. So there's nothing worse than when you're adding your cardstock to your chipboard to your cardstock and you're getting ready to wrap it and you realize you put the chipboard in the wrong order. Been there, done it, hope to never do it again. But since I learned that from Ginger, and thank you, Ginger, if you're watching, I hope you're watching, hopefully I'll never do it again. Okay, so now how do you stick it down? Everybody has their own preference. Again, there's score tape. This is a 1/4 inch roll. I also have what is this one? 3/8. It also comes in 1 inch, 2 inch, and Tammy also sells, which I do not have, or I might have 1 or 2 sheets somewhere. She also sells this score tape in an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and that is just awesome when you can just lay that 8.5 by 11 down on your cover and just cover it all at one time. It's fantastic, but unfortunately I don't have any at the time. So anyway, so like I said, you're going to lay down in numerical order your 7 pieces. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, again, you can put cardstock or score tape on the back of your chipboard like I did. Actually, mine are already stuck down, right? And I used art glitter glue. And this is a big thing for me because I always do my covers, always with score tape. But I have so much art glitter glue, I'm kind of challenging myself to use it in every instance possible. Right, so I don't know. You can see I don't know if you can tell, but I worry about it warping the paper. But I just went ahead and it looks perfectly fine. There's no ripples, nothing. So far so good. Fingers crossed. So you can go ahead, put your adhesive on, and then lay them down in their numerical order. you can see right here. So this is piece number 1. Oh, one other tip that I do have for you. If you recall, you cut your white cardstock down to 11 inches by 9 inches. No, you didn't. You cut it down to 11 by 12. Sorry. I like to, like I said, I like to give myself at least an inch. I hope you can see that on the screen. With my Tim Holtz roller here, you can see that this is 1 inch. But what I did, I come down from the bottom and I measure up 1 inch. Just kind of eyeball. If you're good at eyeballing it, I say go for it. And then I just took, can you see that line right there? Hello? See that line? I just made a line as far as I could go with the ruler to kind of give myself a guide of where the bottom of my chipboard is. And you can see I failed, well, you can't see it yet, but I failed miserably as I get lower because it gets lower and lower and lower. But, you know, it actually works. So I went ahead and glued all my pieces down. And then in between each piece of chipboard, make sure you leave yourself maybe about 1/4 of an inch. Some people say 1/8 of an inch. I used to put a 1/4 inch piece of score tape in between here. But again, I'm challenging myself not to use as much score tape. So I didn't do it this time, and I'm really, really nervous. So you'll find out at the same time I do whether it worked or not. Now, here, I don't know if you can see it. The lights are a bit bright. But you can see here's a piece of score tape, or there's the end of my chipboard. There's the area in between the 2 pieces of chipboard. You see what I did as I get closer? I'm really nervous that's going to crack right there because it's way too close. But we'll see. I might luck out. I doubt it, but we'll see. So again, give yourself in between each piece of chipboard, try to give yourself 1/4 of an inch, no less than 1/8 of an inch. Here's, after chipboard number 3, I have my space. Then I have my spine, which is number 4, and my space. Here is number 5, is 7.5 by 9, with my little, at least 1/4 inch gap. Number 6 is my 1 by 9, and there's that gap there. So I feel like I'm rambling, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. And then what I like to do is put score tape around the outside, okay? Outside perimeter, because that's, once you wrap that piece of paper, it'll grab right there. Then I also put score tape around the outside of the perimeter of the cardstock, okay? And then the very last thing I do before I wrap it is, because this is so long, again, this is another thing that I learned from Ginger, and Tammy, also, Tammy does this also, is to take my stylus. You could use a bone folder if you have a pointy bone folder. I mean, I have this one. This is like one of my favorite ones. It's Teflon. It just fits so good in my fat little hand. So I take my stylus. This is actually one of those McGill, it's a stylus for making flowers. Never made a paper flower with this in my life, but I use it all the time for scoring. So I go ahead and along the perimeter of the chipboard, just go ahead and just give it as if this is sitting in your scoreboard. Just go ahead and give that, not too hard because you don't want to tear your paper, but just give it a nice score all the way around. It looks much better. So I'm going to say, let's go ahead. Well, sorry, before we wrap, there's one more thing we want to do. We're going to miter our corners. Now, some people cut just straight across, actually like that, and miter it. You want to give yourself at least 1/8 of an inch away from that corner right there of that chipboard. But what I do, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I kind of go in like this and then like that. So let me show you what I do. I go like this towards the edge, the corner of the chipboard, then I angle it and bring it out like that. So you see that? See how that piece looks? I kind of try to do that. So I'm going to do it again over here. Then I angle it. Okay, let me flip this around. Sorry for my light, probably got you right in the eyes. come up to the corner and angle. Now see, that one is a little more severe, but you know, we'll make it work. And then we have this one. I mean, you can choose to measure it. I mean, I used to do that too before I started making mini albums, and but eventually, when you get enough practice, you'll be able to do the same. Oh, let me turn this back over. So there's number one. There's chipboard piece number one. So let's go ahead and take off all the score tape. I'm going to take it off of the perimeter, off the edges. Oh, one thing that I did not say, anytime where you have a joint where there are two pieces of chipboard with a space in between, somebody somewhere along the way suggested to me, whenever you have a joint, you should always have a piece of score tape on either side of that joint, which, lost my scissors, which helps hold that paper and it won't bubble. I actually like to put score tape here just to help hold it down, but I didn't want to cover up those numbers for you so that you could see the number order. Sorry about that. If there was a faster way to do this, I would do it, but I wanted you to see the step-by-step. So I hope you're hanging in there with me. This is really easy. And then the golden rule with score tape is after you apply score tape, burnish, burnish, burnish. Okay, so then we're going to remove our score tape everywhere you put score tape. Or if you've used wet glue, you know, you should be ready to go. Just give me a minute. Okay. Seems so wasteful, doesn't it? All this paper, the paper backing. I wish I had stock in the company that makes score tape, that's for sure. Okay. All right. I know you can't see this, I'm off camera, but I'm just removing that piece of score tape. And I'm going to remove the score tape on these sides as well, on the short, just the two short sides. I'm going to leave the bottom one as is for now. Okay. So what I like, and it's totally up to you how you like to do this. I like to try to start in the middle, and because we already scored that, we made it a little easier on ourselves. So just go ahead, run your finger. You could use your bone folder, and just kind of start training the paper. Show it which way it's going to lay. So you see that? Just kind of. And then what I like to do is stand it up. Okay, and then start in the middle and just kind of go for it. And just fold it down. Try not to pull it too far. You don't want it to bubble like mine just did. But just go ahead and pull that down. Grab your bone folder or whatever you're using. And just flatten any bubbles that you get. Give it a good burnish. Then what I like to do, again, with my bone folder, is just rub that along the edge. Try not to push too hard because you don't want to poke a hole through it. Yeah, so you get a nice edge. Okay, so we're going to flip this around. And I'm going to remove this score tape here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just going to start on this edge and just start training the paper. Show it what you need it to do. Again, just jump in and start wrapping. And if you're lucky, haha, everything just falls right into place. Because you already trained it by, number one, by scoring it along the outside of the cardstock, and then come up along the top, give that a nice burnish. So see how that goes nice and flat? Oh, that's a good shot right there. It's just nice and flat. Let's do the same on the other side. Flip it back over. Did I do this yet? Again, I don't want to push too hard because I don't want to get my bone folder in between those joints and then stick the bone folder through there. That would really be terrible. Okay, let's go this way. So this is my right side of my project. All right, deep breath. We're going to wrap the corners. So what we're going to do is there's that little tiny piece. See that? I don't know if you can see that. My light's kind of bright. I'm just pushing those little corners in. Oh, I thought I ripped it. Just pushing that cardstock in and out of the way so that when you start to train it, like we did across the top and the bottom, so that when you bring that over, now see I have that sticking up a little bit, which is okay. My corner's wrapped. I have nothing showing through. So see there? See how that's a good shot. Now I wish it was a little longer right here. I pushed it in, but I could live with it. And then over here, yeah, the same. So see how that's sticking up a little bit? There just isn't any adhesive. I'm going to take some of my glue and just stick that right in there and glue that down. So you see? Nobody will ever know but me and all of you watching the video. Okay, so let's do the same on the left-hand side of the book. We're just going to, oops, I guess you'd want to see that. We're going to just fold that in. Fold that in. Going to go to this side. Now this is the side I was concerned about, but we'll see what happens. Oh, my screen's going dark. Okay. So again, let's just start training it, the paper, where we're going to want it to go. Okay. And just lay it down. Oh, that actually worked beautifully. Okay. So you see, there's that corner. And then there's that corner. All right. So that is your chipboard wrapped. So you can see there's the outside. Right now it just looks like a big, long, white piece of chipboard. All right, so let me just put my top on my glue. All right. So here we are back on the left-hand side. And what I did was cut down, we're going to cover this chipboard. So the front, some people, although, you know, this is another one, though it's up to you, your own personal preference. Oh, pardon me. Some people do not put, you know, in my case, white. They do not cover this chipboard with white because they cover it with pattern paper anyway. And that's completely and totally up to you. I still like to cover it because I like it to be a clean surface. But, you know, you can make that call. So I actually have three more pieces of chipboard, and I cut these down to 8 7/8. Where I cut two of them down to 8 7/8 by 12. Because again, if you recall, when we first started making the cover, we needed 3 sheets of 12 by 12. Well, a little more than 3.5 or 2.5. And then my last piece I need is 8 7/8 for the height by 6 inches. So that's just a little more, just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. So what you want to do, if you want to cover yours with the white cardstock like I do, is to go ahead on your 8 7/8, whether you're going to use wet glue. If you use wet glue, go ahead and cover it with wet glue, or just put score tape around the perimeter. So I'm going to tear that off. Take off the paper backing, I mean. Okay. So here I am on the left-hand side, and just kind of line it up. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the top of my book right here. Here's the bottom. Just want to go ahead, get as close to the edge. You obviously don't want to go over the edge. This part always makes me so nervous. Okay. Right. And then just go ahead and stick it down. I always just take a deep breath and just let it go. And then go ahead and burnish. At this point, try not to go with your bone folder in those little joints yet. Just kind of let it all kind of just sit there for a minute. Especially if you're using wet glue, you're going to want to let it dry first. So here is my second sheet. That is 8 7/8 by 12. Sorry, I can never take this backing off of this paper. No, ooh, that was almost a disaster. Okay. All right. So here is where we left off. So I'm going to want to go ahead and just give it a little bit of an overhang. All right. There we go. That's number 2 is covered. We got a little, I'm off a little tiny bit, but I can live with that. And I don't think you can even see it, unless I pointed it up. Oh, see it right there. See, it got a little bit crooked, but I can live with it. All right, so then I have just this little space left here. So what I did was give myself 6 inches. You can see if I overlap a little bit right here, I have plenty. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the paper backing. And I'm going to attempt to line all this up again. So I kind of just overlapped where I left off before. But I want to be careful that I don't overhang on the edge here. There we go. Again, giving everything a really good burnish. Helps that score tape kind of meld into that chipboard and into that paper. All right, so this is another scary part for me. So now what we need to do, remember we had all those joints in there where all the 7 different pieces of cardstock were? So kind of feel your way in there. Let's see, where is it? Okay, so if you kind of just lift up on one piece, you'll see how that's starting to, oh, that's bubbling a little bit, but that's okay. See how it's saying, hey, wait a minute, there's a joint right there. What's going on? So there's that one. Just lift up a little bit over there. There should be another one coming up shortly. Oh, there it is. There's the other side. Don't lift up too far. Just again, we're just training the paper. It doesn't know what you want it to do. Oh. And then the last one. Okay, so you should have, starting from the left-hand side of the book, there's your 1-inch spine. There's your 2-inch spine. If you can see that, I'm trying to be careful. See the 2-inch spine right here? Then here's your other 1-inch spine. And, oh, I did it again. I should have overlapped that a little further, but that's okay. So now what you want to do, this is the part where you got to really, really be careful. And if you can invest in one of these Teflon bone folders, I mean, I have this one. It's a little pointy. You can see it's well used. It's gross. I don't know what that stuff is. But I really, really love this one, so that what I do is I don't use the tip, but I use the little side here, and I go right into that crease or that joint and just help the paper. You know, help, like it's actually scoring the paper. But this is where I had that little problem, and it's gonna crack. Oh, I think it just cracked. Oh, I'm good. Okay. So then you go to the next one. This is where it's so critical that you leave enough space. That good quarter inch. Then you come over here. So see, you're just helping it. Alright. Let's get this one going. Right, and then this one. Alright. Oh, this makes me so nervous. Okay. Alright. Whew. So this is what it should look like. Okay. Can you open it back up? Now mine made that noise because when I did that last 6-inch piece of the overhang, I got too close to the joint there. I should have maybe overhung like maybe another 1/2 inch. So I will note that in the written tutorial part. Okay, so now you have the base of your book is put together. What my suggestion to you now is you can, if you want to put some ribbon around here for a ribbon closure, that would be really, really nice. But what I did on mine is I put 3 of the larger magnets on to help hold it shut. That is totally up to you. Or you can poke a hole in the spine and, oh, let me see if I can reach it. Oh, I can't reach it. I have some, oh, there we go. I have some of this elastic cording. Sorry, this stretchy stuff that you can use that as a closure if you want. But my advice to you at this point is now that your book is done, it's not done, now that the shell of the book is finished, this is a great time to go ahead and take your magnets, which I only have, oh no, I only have 3 left, 3 of the big ones. These are the basic gray big magnets, the large magnets that Tammy carries in her store. These are the smaller ones. These are kind of powerful, but these are phenomenal. So my suggestion is, especially something as important as keeping your book closed, I would use the magnets. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put them on right now and show you. And everything sticks to these things. Oh. Okay, so what I did, take a plus sign and a minus sign, stuck them together. So you want to be careful so that when your book closes, you leave enough space from this edge so that your pattern paper covers it. So I wouldn't go any closer than a 1/2 inch. So I put one here, and one here. So I would just go ahead and take off the paper backing. Give yourself about a 1/2 inch. Take off the backing on the minus side. And what that's going to do is, before you stick it you stick it down. Just make sure your book is square. Everything is where it should be when it's put together correctly. And then say a little prayer. And there you go. You have a magnet on each side. And then just for a little extra security, just to keep it there, I put a little piece of square tape. Let's do the same over here. Oop. But you have to make sure you go over the magnet, Anne-Marie. Okay. So for the next one, put the two together again. Again, make sure you give yourself enough space. Oh, I can never get these out of this package. Come on. Okay. And again, make sure you have a plus sign and a minus sign. If you do two pluses, they will or two minuses, they will repel each other, and that just really stinks. All right, take your backings off. And just line that up. Oh, my book did rip. I'm going to have to put something around that. So there you go. There's 3 on one side, 3 on the other. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do some surgery on that spine that tore, where the cardstock tore. And I will be back and we will start on the inside pages. So I hope you're sticking with me. Seems like a lot, but after you do this a couple hundred times, you'll fly through it just like what the rest of us do. So there you go. So you see it's staying closed when you stand it up. It's awesome. Doesn't fall apart. And again, like I said, you could use a ribbon closure if you don't have, or you can't get a hold of the magnets. But if you do need those, Tammy has them in her store at countrycraftcreations.com. All right, so I will be back in just a little bit, and we'll get started first on the waterfall and then the rest of the pages. Thanks a lot. Okay, we are going to now work on. I'm going to start from the left. Oops. We are going to work on this pocket waterfall. Okay, it has, like I showed in the walkthrough, it has a typical waterfall flap, but it also has a little pocket over here. And there are 6 of those. So we're going to go ahead and get going on that. So this is the book that we made. I mentioned earlier that my spine cracked. Well, I performed some emergency surgery, and I had to move all my magnets and everything, but now everything looks beautiful. I fixed it. To be honest, I tore it apart, and gosh, let me turn off my autofocus. Sorry about that. So I fixed it, and I feel okay about it now. What's going on here? Come on. Oh, that's weird. The autofocus is off. Oh, maybe it's just because it's because of the white. Okay. So what you're going to need for your waterfall, you're going to need 6 pieces. Well, actually, let's start off from the beginning. You're going to want a base. I find this is the easiest way to make a waterfall, is to put everything on this paper and then attach the waterfall into the book. So the base is going to be 4.5 by 9. So that's your waterfall base. Oops, sorry. Let me move my camera over just a squidge. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so 4.5 by 9. Then you're going to want 6 additional pieces of 4.5 by 9. You could decide if you want to make a smaller waterfall. You just need less of these pages. And then you're going to also want 6 pieces of 4.5 by 4. And I think I put all that together already. Oh, no, here we go. So you're going to want 6 pieces of 4.5 by 4. And let me grab my scoreboard and I will show you what we're going to do. So we're going to take those 6 pieces of 4.5 by 4, and on the 4-inch side, we're going to score down 1/2 inch. So your 4-inch side here is in the top of your scoreboard. You're scoring down 1/2 inch. You're going to do that on all 6. Okay. Then you also have 6 pieces of 4.5 by 9. With the 4-inch side, the 4.5 inch side in the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score down 1/2 inch, rotate it, and score down 1/2 inch again. Then you want to turn it around so that your 9-inch side is in the top of your scoreboard and score at 4.5. Okay? Let's get that out of the way. So now what you want to do, you want to fold on all your score lines. Just ignore that piece that I have flapping there. So you have 3 score lines. You're going to want to fold and crease or burnish. Oopsie. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to take one side, doesn't matter which side, and you're going to actually, you can see I did it already. I couldn't control myself. I did all the other 5. So you're going to cut up basically, oh, I noticed that that's crooked. You just want to get rid of one of these flaps, okay? So, and then what you're going to do is just angle in right at that score line. So you should have something that looks like this, okay? Then on the opposite side, right where that middle score line is, just notch out right at that little intersection. That's what you should be left with. Okay? And then what we're going to do is fold in these 2 sides. I think you can see where we're headed with this. Take your glue or your score tape. Oops, let me just burnish that. See how that wants to stand up? Just want to give that a good burnish to help it stay down. Just controlling it a little bit. Let's give it some glue. Come on, glue. Give that some glue. And either fold this side over or the other side, doesn't really matter. No, you don't want to go over that score line over here. Just go ahead and give that, help that stick down. Finish those edges. So what you're left with is a little pocket with a flap. Oh, and you just want to go ahead and notch out that corner. Okay? So next, you want to take the flap we created. This is the 4 by 4.5. We scored it at 1/2 inch. Let's give that a burnish so it lays nicely. And we're going to go ahead, put some glue, or you could use score tape. And then I always turn mine upside down so that I can see it. So you want to make sure your pocket opening is on your right and the flap is going to go like this, right? So that the flap opens up. But I like to turn this either sideways or upside down to make sure that I line this up perfectly right at the fold without going over the fold. line it up, and with glue you get a little extra wiggle room time that you don't always get with score tape. At this point, you can either use edge punch on this or a corner chomper. I think I'm just going to go ahead and leave these straight. On the one in my book, I did round the corners. Oops. You see right there. But you can do whatever you want. It's your project. Alright, so you can go ahead and make all 6 of those, or the remaining 5, which I already did. So you can either stop the video, sticky fingers, while I was performing surgery on my spines that cracked. I got a humongous paper cut and it hurts like heck. Anyway, just trying to work too fast. Okay, so remember your base that you cut at 4.5 by 9. This is going to lay, you can see with the surgery that I did, see I tore it all up. This is going to lay, well actually, if I can make one adjustment, I would say do not cut this 4.5 by 9, cut this at 4.5 by 8 7/8. Sorry about that, because your book is 9 inches tall, so I would just give yourself about 1/8 of an inch and make that 8 7/8. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we are. So what we're going to do is take each one of these waterfall pockets, that's what I'm going to call it, and we're going to make sure that on each one the pocket is on the right hand side of the page, the pocket is facing your right hand side, so it's over here. Alright, so again, you can either use score tape or you can use glue. I'm going to just use some glue, and I'm going to turn mine upside down because I'm just crazy and I work upside down. Alright, and then, so hope you can see that around my big fingers. Just want to line the very edge of that tab, line it up and keep it as straight as you can. And of course mine's a tiny bit off, but it's okay. There we go. And just lay that down. You can see there's the first one. There's your first one. So there's your first waterfall flap and your first pocket. Okay, so you want to leave that open. And here is my second one. So now what you want to do is make sure that tab, the very folded edge of the tab, lines up with the end of that tab right there. So that will give you a clean 1/2 of an inch. It will help you keep everything straight, or as straight as possible, because I still tend to get mine crooked, but that's alright. Just make it go as straight as you can. And give it a good burnish. So there you have 2 waterfall pockets. Okay, you can either shut me off or just continue to work with me, because I'm going to still sit here and talk to myself. That's what doing videos are so fun. Okay. There we go. There's number 3. Still, oh, I'm surprised. It's still somewhat straight. I don't know what it looks like up there, but here's number 3. Again, just line that up with the end of the previous one. That's why it's so critical to get that first one straight. Oh, and you can see what I did? See how it's so far off? There we go. So now I have 4. You could stop right there and then create a pocket to put under here if you wanted to, but I'm going to go full blown with all 6. Oh gosh, you know what I did not check? Just to make sure all my pockets are on the right hand side, and whew, fortunately they are. Okay, that pocket. All right, last one. Number 6. All right, so you see it does get a little bit thick, but that's okay. We're going to have a little band. Now you can decide whether you want to do a belly band. Well, actually, before we get there, let's go ahead and just put this down in our book. Now, I like to use, where is it? Yep, there it is. I like to use score tape. Glue would work okay too, but I like to use score tape in areas of the book where it's going to take a lot of abuse, meaning it's going to be handled a lot. You know, people are going to flip through. I'm going to flip through the waterfall, and I just feel like for instance, I wouldn't use an ATG gun to attach this to the book, because an ATG gun, you know, it's repositionable, so the adhesive in the ATG, so I would just worry that it would get pulled right off of the book over time. So you can see I'm putting loads of score tape on here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove that score tape. Again, if you want to use liquid adhesive, you can. I don't know what it is. I just feel like score tape would be more secure. I could be wrong. Oh! Stuck right to me. Okay. You could see this trash can over here on my right. It is full of score tape backing. Right, I'm going to take, there is that, oh, can you see that? I hope. That is my, that is, I can't line it up on there. There we go. This is my left-hand side of my book. So what I want to do, I don't want to come too far over because I do not want the waterfall to extend out beyond the flap. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Then I'm going to go in between each one where these little 1/2-inch tabs are and make sure I give it a really good burnish to help hold that down. Oops, there we go. So you kind of hear that. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can hear it. Where the paper is just, the score tape is being attached to the paper. I like to make sure I give that a good burnish. So you see, you still have, nothing is, whoops, nothing is sticking out beyond the edge of this chipboard flap, and everything, do you hear that? The magnets just pulled that right in. Okay. All right, so here's where you can decide if you want to use a magnet in here like I did, but again, this time I would not use one of the smaller magnets. I would make sure I would use one of the bigger magnets like we use on our cover. So you can hear it, it's still, but there's a lot of layers in between there. I used a small magnet. Maybe if you use 2 small magnets, maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll use 2 because I am out of the big magnets. Or instead of this, like underneath this piece of pattern paper, you could put some ribbon under here and put some ribbon under here and then just tie it, you know, tie it in the middle. That would be really cute. Or you don't necessarily even need a closure on your waterfall. I just feel like it keeps everything nice and tidy and it stops the papers from getting wrinkled up. So I think I will make that decision as I go along. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a pocket under here, or I might just do a photo. Oops, sorry. Or I might just do a photo mat. I haven't decided that yet. See, that's the beauty of you can, you know, decide, do it however you want to do it. Okay. And I think I used the wrong side, but that's okay. And my book is upside down. Alright, so next, now your waterfall is done. That was exciting. I love it. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and we're going to put on, oh sorry, I did leave out one important piece of information. If you do decide you want to use a magnet, let's see, let me check something really quick. Okay, all your pockets all on the right hand side. So what you want to do, if you're going to use a magnet, is figure out, I just happen to have, this is you could use this as a closure. You could figure out, I don't know, maybe, do you want your magnet to hit right there? Again, just like with on the covers of the book, you don't want to put your magnet too far down here. You're going to want to put it maybe in the middle. So maybe center this and center it right here. So that would be, oh, about 5 inches, where you would score at a 1/2 inch on the short side. Attach, put some score tape or glue and attach underneath there, because that will get covered up with pattern paper. And you can put your magnet right there. How about if I do that for you? Let's just do it. Get it over with. As now I feel badly. Okay, so let me find a piece of scrap paper. What I like to do is cut it at about, let's see, cut it at about, what did I say? 5 inches, is that what I said? And then 5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. That's gonna be, yep. And then, so we're 5 inches long, 1.5 inches wide. With the 5-inch side on your scoreboard, at the top of your scoreboard, just go ahead and give it a 1/2 inch. Score it 1/2 inch. And fold it on that 1/2 inch. Oh, it's starting to thunder here. Give it some, really had some really crazy summer weather here in the Northeast. Oh, I wonder if you heard that. God, I hope the power doesn't go out in the middle of filming. That would just be par for the course. Alright, so let's bring this back in the camera frame. So again, like I said, you don't want to go over that fold line. Try to center that as best as you can. Okay. But I am going to, yes, I am going to round those corners. So I have my corner chomper here. I'm using the 1/2 inch corner rounder. That just lives right over here. Okay, so, oh, sure you heard that one. Oh, so glad it's raining. Now I don't have to water my flowers. So I'm gonna actually use 2 of these smaller magnets. God, I can never get these out of here. Okay. Oh, see? They've found each other on my mat. Oops. Come on. Ugh. I hate when this happens. Alright. Okay, there's the plus and minus on 1. There's that one. God, these things are so little. Alright. Where is my knife? Alright, so there's some space here. You can see that. I feel like it got dark in here. Alright. I'm going to try to keep that kind of centered there. Just drop that down. So that pattern paper will cover that up. No, 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 no. Oh. A little stinker. Pretty strong. Stop it! Oh. Oh, this is on my nerves. Okay. I almost said some choice words. Alright. Where's that one? Oh, for heaven's sake. Alright. Oh my goodness. If I were you, I would just fast forward over this. This is really embarrassing. Alright. Come on, get off of there. Side switch. This must be the K. I'm going to put some glue because it destroyed it. Oh, are you kidding? Sit next to it. Just stop it. Stay there. There we go. Holy jeez. All right. Really, this really does work. Oh, okay. There. That one does not want to stay, but I will get some score tape on it. Okay. Oh, where's my little roll of score tape? Here it is. Okay, put some on that one. I'm so sorry. None of this stuff ever happens until you turn the camera on. For those of you who might do videos, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I could sit here for days and just work and work and work and never have a problem with a magnet. Until you're all watching. And then it's always a habit. It always happens. Okay. So, there you go. Of course, you won't have to go through this if you just use one big magnet. Don't do what Anne-Marie does. Do it the right way. Okay, so there's your waterfall done. So see, I mean, I get a lot of comments and a lot of emails from people who say, I just can't get the waterfall to work, and I was in your shoes. I had the same problem until Tammy Merrill from Country Craft Creations came up with this ingenious idea to use that, the waterfall base. And at least that's where I learned it from, and now it's so much easier. It was always such a hassle to try to, get the book just right and get just the right angle and hope and pray that the something just fell, and hope and pray that the waterfall would land, would end up in the right place. And sure enough, there we go. All right, so now we're going to go ahead, we're going to move on to this middle section where the left-hand section 2, I'm calling it, where we are putting these pockets, okay? All right, and this is, you know what, I'm not even going to say it's simple because nothing's simple anymore. All right, so what you're going to want is a piece of your base color cardstock, whatever color you're using, white, black, craft, blue, purple, whatever. You're going to want that to be 5 3/4 inches by 10 inches. Okay, and you're going to put it in your scoreboard with the 5 3/4 inch side at the top. Score down a 1/2 inch. Rotate it. Score a 1/2 inch on the left and a 1/2 inch on the left again. Okay, so we're just making a pocket. I hope these are the right size too. I'm going to check. Yep. Alright, and then what we're going to want to do is come in. See where those score lines intersect? We're going to go ahead and we're just going to notch those out. Remember how we did that on the cover? So that it looks like that? I'm going to do that on both these little sides at the bottom. A little bit aggressive. Okay, and then at the top, we're just going to go ahead and just slant that a little bit or tab the corner. Okay, so you're going to want to fold and burnish. And fold and burnish. And so you can see what we're doing here is we are just going to come over here and we're just going to attach that pocket right there. See, so you have a pocket that's the entire length of your book. Okay, so again, you can use your score tape or you can use glue. As I mentioned, I'm trying to challenge myself to not use as much score tape. And that's one way I like to do it. I like to put the glue on the sides first. And then I come through again with some glue on the bottom. Okay, so you can see we have that little fold right there. So you're going to want to make sure you don't want to go too close into the crease because you don't want the pocket to cause any interference with your book closing, which I think mine just did. So I'm going to pull that up and move it over just a little bit. Alright. Just come in and make sure everything's laying nice and flat. I have to fix fix that again. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, okay. Right. Just make sure that all closes up still nicely. Okay. So you can see you have your pocket. And that should be about 5.5 inches deep. Now if you have before you put it down, if you have a hole punch, you can put a 1 inch or a 2 inch hole punch in there, circle punch, and just cut a thumb hole if you want, but I don't necessarily see the need for that. Okay, so now you can make a decision if you want 2 more pockets or if you just want 1. You can go ahead and cut yourself a strip that is 1 inch wide by 10 inches long, and then put the 10-inch side into your scoreboard and score a 1/2 inch here, rotate it around and score it a 1/2 inch also again. And then you're going to fold along those score lines and burnish or crease. Burnish there. So what I do, I think I'm only going to do 1 pocket this time. What you can do is leave yourself, I don't know, a little bit of extra room. So there's your first pocket, or you can actually just bring it straight up through there. And then what I do, the reason I do these pockets such a shallow little pocket, you know, with only 1 inch, is I take some pattern paper, which I just don't happen to have. Oh, I do have some right here. I will take my pattern paper. Now imagine this is the right width. So this is only 1 inch wide. I would probably cut this to 2 inches, just so it stops right about there. You can't see it, but I can feel it. So that you don't waste a lot of pattern paper by, you know, putting it all the way in there. So you see you would only have like that much left. So you would waste all that pattern paper. I don't really see the need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead. It just cuts down on a lot of bulk also. I'm going to go ahead and use some glue. I always use glue when I'm working on pockets because score tape tags tend to get stuck in score tape because score tape is an adhesive that doesn't dry 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and add my pocket as straight as you possibly can. So let me just tear this. So you'll have something going in there in that pocket. Then you also can utilize that entire space underneath there for a second pocket. Okay? And then if you'd like, you can do a second 1 inch by 10 inch little pocket. And then put that right there, but unfortunately there's not a lot of space left. So I think I'm going to leave mine. I'm just going to have 2 pockets on this one instead of 3. But absolutely, if you wanted to have a third pocket, you could make this shorter. You can make this just a 4-inch pocket if you want. And then you can actually have 2 additional pockets. But I'm just going to leave mine with one extra pocket. Okay, and let's see. Next we're going to do these 2 what did I call these? Pocket flaps. Okay. So these, oops, where is my glue? See? I put a magnet there to hold the pin in my glue so it doesn't dry out, and I forgot to put it there. See, you have to always put it back because these will dry out in a second. Come on. something is like stuck. I think I have too much glue. If you use this art glitter glue with this fine tip, you'll know what I'm talking about. There we go. Okay. Alright, so for those 2 pocket flaps, what you'll need is... oh, gravy. You'll need 1 piece of your base cardstock that is 6.5 inches wide by 10 inches long. Actually, you'll need 2 of those. Then you will also need 2 that are 6 inches by 9 inches. Okay. And then for the piece that is 6.5 by 10, you're going to put the 6.5 inch side in your scoreboard and score it 1/2 inch. Then rotate it one way and score 1/2 inch there, and then come on back around with the 10 inch side in your scoreboard and score it 1/2 inch. Okay? Then what we're going to do is notch out the corner where the 2 score lines intersect. Do the same on this side. Okay. Thunder, thunder, thunder. And go ahead and burnish, fold and burnish on your score lines. So basically we're just making a pocket. Okay, but one thing we're going to do differently though is we are going to create, here's one that I finished. So I already put it together. So here's your 1/2 inch tab that's going to connect it to your book. And inside there, we are going to make, I don't know if you see that. There's that little Z in there. I learned this from another designer quite a few years ago that actually divides this pocket. You can kind of see where, excuse me, I don't know if you can see where I put that divider. It's going to make 2 pocket pages. So what you're going to need to do that is a piece of your cardstock. Doesn't matter what color it is because nobody's ever going to see it. I did 1.5 inches, and this one happened to be, this was a scrap piece of paper. It happened to be 5 inches long. And I scored it at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So that kind of made it look kind of like this. See that? So then what I did was on my mat here, you can't see it. I'll use my ruler. So I came down to the, if this is 9 inches long, 4.5 inches is the center. I hope you can see that right there is 4.5 inches. I took some glue. Actually, I think I'll use score tape on this one. Where'd it go? I swear, gets up and walks away from me. I put some score tape on, on one side. Turn that over and put some score tape on the other side. Okay, wow, that's really crooked. All right. All right, so again, measure down 4.5 inches, and you just want to line up one of those folds at the 4.5 inch mark. So you don't have to come all the way to the back, you don't have to come all the way to the front. I just kind of eyeballed it and tried to put it right in the middle. Hopefully that doesn't look like that's even, but let's check. That's only 4 1/4, but that's okay. Alright, so then this is, again, this is the flap. is going to connect to your book, your pocket flap to your book. So then what I want to do here is take some glue on this flap, put some on this flap, and you can run a really thin bead of glue down along this side if you want to. You don't really have to, but I just think it, finishes it off. So then you want to take your piece that is 6 inches by 9 inches. Oh, sorry, I have to remove the score tape. Okay, and then what I tend to do, I like to start on the bottom edge and just make sure that all that lines up. Because if all that is lined up properly, then the rest of it will all fall right into place. Kind of squish down that little divider we just put in there. And then just finish that off, being really careful not to cover over that fold line. If you can see that, you want to be really careful not to cover that. Okay, and there is your pocket page. See that? It's awesome. So you can, it divides it up and you can put two different size tags in there. So now what we're going to want to do is add that into our book. And we're going to add that right here to this 2-inch spine. Okay? So let me just double check, make sure that's where I had it. Yes, we added it to the 2-inch spine. I mean, if you wanted to, you could add it to the 1-inch spine. You can put it wherever you want to. It's your project. But that's the way I decided to do it. And of course, you're going to want to make sure that your pocket opening faces from the right. Or if you want to do it the opposite direction, that's fine too. So what I like to do, what is this on my screen? Oh, that was weird. Okay. I hope you guys didn't see that. I wanted to update my camera. Okay, so I'm over here, and I'm going to put it as close as I can to that fold line without going over it, because that would be a disaster. And try to get it as straight as possible. Okay. Okay. I don't know where those little crumbs are coming from. So there's your first one. And then I already made one earlier. So I'm going to put that one right next to it. Again, just lining them up, getting it as straight as possible. Yep, here comes the rain. Wow, it's raining hard. Okay. All right. So there's that part done. All right. Wow, that's exciting. See, it actually goes pretty quick once you're not making mistakes like I did. So there are your 2 pages. These are really fun to decorate. You can do this because you have separate, pockets. You can do 2 different photo mats or whatever. You can do one big layout with all kinds of embellishments and stuff. That's up to you. But this side is going to be, we're going to do some pockets over here and then a belly band over here. So I am going to go ahead and get all that cut out for you, and we will be right back with the next part. Okay, so we are just about finished, or very close to being finished, with putting together the Sweet Treats Folio. We're going to go ahead and in the centermost section, we're going to do these two pockets, and then we're going to add this belly band, and we're pretty much finished. And then you could go ahead and decorate how you see fit. So let's see. So we've got the waterfall, we've got the left section 2 pockets, we've got the center section pocket flaps, and now we're going to go ahead and do the center pockets. And the first thing you'll need for that is 2 pieces of your base cardstock, and this paper, or this measures 4.5 by 8.5. Then you're also going to want one that measures 3 inches by 8.5. And then while you're cutting cardstock, we might as well go ahead and cut your belly band, which is 3 inches by 6 inches. We could set that one aside because we're not doing that one yet. All right, so grab your scoreboard. I didn't do this ahead of time. Let's grab your scoreboard, and for your pocket with the 8.5 inch side at the top of your scoreboard, go ahead and score that at 1/2 inch. Rotate it to the short side or the 4.5 inch side. Score that at 1/2 inch. Rotate one more time and score it at 1/2 inch. And then for your second pocket, this is your 3 inches by 8.5 inches. We're only going to score twice. We're going to score once at the 1/2 inch, and then flip it around and also score a 1/2 inch on the left hand side. Well, while I'm here, so I could put my scoreboard away, this is our belly band piece with the 6 inch side at the top of your scoreboard. Go ahead and score it at 1/2 inch, rotate it, score it at 1/2 inch again. So now we can put the scoreboard away. All right, so let's go back to our big pocket page. We've actually, just as we just did that last pocket, go ahead and fold on all your score lines. And again, we're going to get rid of this little square where the 2 score lines intersect. Let's go ahead and get rid of those, and then we're going to go ahead and tab the top or miter the corners. And then for the second pocket, just do the same thing. Go ahead and fold on your score lines. Okay. Bring our book back in. Here we are with the center section. We're going to take our pocket. I'm going to move that up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead with my glue. Put down some glue. Oh, I knew that was going to get stuck. Okay. Some glue on all 3 sides. Oops. I tell you, nothing wants to cooperate with me today. It's one of those days. All right. So again, you want to be careful not to put your pocket, the edge of your pocket, in either of these two spine channels. You want to get it as close as you can without causing any kind of interference. Oh, ooh. That was interesting. That slid on me. Okay. Let's go ahead and reinforce those creases. And there's your pocket. And let's bring in the second one. And put some glue on those edges. And just leave yourself a little bit of space. Again, be mindful of those spine channels. There you go. And the pockets are done. So just, is that crooked? It looks crooked. Don't tear, don't tear, don't tear, don't tear, don't tear. Yes, I talk to my books all the time. Ooh, that glue dries fast, but ooh. Okay. So you see there's no interference with either pocket. It's awesome. And just like I was saying before, when I decorate this pocket, I would put the pattern paper, have it go down inside here. But only about a ½ inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. You don't want to waste too much of your pattern paper. All right, and the same up here. Okay, so lastly, we are going to add the belly band, and this is where I had the little fiasco earlier. Excuse me. When I went to tear something off, I tore off the paper. But I'm not too concerned about that because I am actually going to put my belly band on, but then that's going to get covered up with my pattern paper. So I'm not too upset about that. So here is your 3 inches by 6 inch belly band that we cut out earlier, and we scored a ½ inch on each side. We're going to go ahead and just fold those, fold over those tabs. And you can decide where you want to put that belly band. I don't know if you wanted to put the bottom or if you want to put it in the middle to cover up some uglies, like I should probably do. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with putting it in the middle because I like to use those chipboard the chipboard embellishments, and I use them as a stopper. I just think it looks really cute. Or you can cut out 2 belly bands, or you can put a belly band and a pocket. And then you could have your tag go down through the belly band and rest inside the pocket if that's what you like. I've seen and I've done that before too. So it's all in what you like. I haven't decided if I'm just going to make another one of these same books with the rest of the Practically Perfect paper, or I have a couple other collections that I might use. So go ahead and just line that up. Be careful not to put it in the channel for the spine. And your belly band pocket is done. And then what you can do is when you choose your pattern paper, sometimes I don't, I guess it depends on the space that I have to work with, but if I'm using a belly band, sometimes I put the pattern paper down first, but because of, that this is a pretty easy size to work with, the pattern paper will leave, because of the belly band, will leave a really nice, little less than 1/8 of an inch border. Like I said, that'll cover up all my little mistakes right there, and nobody will ever know. So there you have it. This is, this glue, it makes me crazy. This is my Sweet Treat Folio. I hope you make one of these. I actually was considering putting a flap right here that comes down over here, with a couple more pockets on the front and maybe one on the side. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. I still feel like it needs a little bit of something more, or maybe another one of these pocket pages. Because you see, I still have about, what is that? That's close to an inch, isn't it? Yeah, I still have an inch of spine left I can utilize there. I just haven't decided yet what to do with it. So that is the naked book. You can see the view from the top. And this is the completed book. So I just really like it. There's so much you can do with the cover. You know, you could wrap some pretty lace around the spine. I'm actually considering, if I can get a hold of some teapot charms and a teacut charm, I might actually add a dangle charm on the side over here. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. I will admit that this paper kind of scared me off in the beginning. Because I mean, look at the colors. You have the bright reds and greens, and then you have the real soft muted colors with the pinks and the florals. And so it's kind of all over the place. It's like the best of all worlds. So I hope you'll make one of these. And if you do, please tag me over on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, or I'm on Instagram, Anne-Marie Cho 40. My YouTube channel, as you know, is Anne-Marie Cho 40. Same with Facebook. And so yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today on this Sunday afternoon. Rainy. I really do apologize for all the noise with the thunder. It sounds like it's slowing down now. So again, I'd love to see what you make, and happy crafting, everybody. Thanks. Bye.